Now, before we talk about disconnecting hoses, I want to talk quickly about connecting them. When you put them on, they should only be finger tight. You don't want to crank down on these. If you have to crank down on these because you're getting leakage, you have to start, you're going to want to look at your O-rings in there. They're probably going to need to be replaced. So you don't have to put these on very tight. Just until it's snug, you don't have to crank down. That's going to make it a lot easier for us to take this back off again when we have pressure on this. Now, when it comes to disconnecting the hoses, some people will tell you to do it while it's running. Some people will tell you to do it while it's shutting off. Now, the logic behind doing it when you shut it off is that all the pressure on this liquid line here, this is probably around between say 225 and 300 psi, and that's because the compressor is running to compress this liquid. So it's a high pressure. On the suction line, we have only about 110, 115 pounds of pressure. So when you shut the unit off, the compressor shuts down and these pressures will equalize, and that takes the pressure down on the liquid line. But because the compressor is off, it's also going to increase the pressure on the suction line. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So I like to do it while it's running. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of the blowback you'll get on the fitting as you disconnect it isn't entirely coming from the pressure in the liquid line. It's coming from the pressure inside your hoses that go to your manifold. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust these valves on my hoses here and the valves on my manifold to pull the pressure off of this liquid line hose on my manifold to reduce the pressure that's on there, because right now the pressure is about 250 psi, matching the pressure in this liquid line. So if I could pull this pressure down to the same pressure as the suction side, I'll have a lower pressure when I disconnect, and that'll help prevent some of the blowback. To do that, I'm going to leave the valve on my suction side open, because right now the compressor is working to pull down the pressure in this blue hose going up to my manifold. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close the valve on my liquid line to isolate the pressure that's on my hose from the pressure in the liquid line. So my high side valve closed, suction side valve remains open. Now I did add a little bit of refrigerant to this system. Right now I have my tank valve closed. So this is closed here, and I have my valve on my hose closed as well. Now on my manifold, all my valves are closed right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this liquid line here that I used to add refrigerant. I'm going to open that up, because there's still refrigerant in here and I want to put it back into the system. I'm now going to open up my high side valve. And this is on the hose going back to the liquid line. So right now it's isolated. I still have a lot of pressure in this line. You can see here, I have about 200 pounds of pressure that's still on this red line here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my suction side. And you can see how it pulls down the pressure on the high side. So what I just did was I pulled all the refrigerant that was in this, going back to the bottle. I pulled all the refrigerant pressure off of this line, going back to my liquid side, which is isolated. And I pulled everything down to the suction side pressure. So over here, now I only have a little over 100 pounds of pressure on that hose, which should limit my blowback when I go to disconnect. Now, when you go to disconnect this connection here, the blowback is going to come from the front of the fitting and from behind the fitting. So you don't want to put your hands over it to be in that line of fire. So what I do is I just take my 2 fingers and I start backing it off very quickly. And you don't want to stop. Once you start, keep going. Don't stop. Now, it's a good idea to wear gloves, but even if you're wearing gloves, it's not going to protect you from the temperature drop of the refrigerant that's blowing out of this fitting as you disconnect it. because refrigerant has the property where when it drops in pressure, it also drops in temperature. Now, this liquid line here it was about what, 225 pounds per square inch. And at that pressure, this liquid line was about 75 degrees. Once it hits atmospheric pressure, when it comes out of here, it can drop down to -60. So that's instant frostbite. And even if you're wearing gloves, it's still going to get you because your Milwaukee gloves aren't going to protect you from those kind of temperatures. But it's always good to wear gloves anyway, just to protect you at least somewhat. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect, and I'm just going to use 2 fingers the same way I made the connection. And on my suction side, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to close my valve off on my hose, and I'm going to make the same thing. I can then go ahead, disconnect from my tank. Now, as far as what to do with the pressures that are still in your hoses on your manifold, it really kind of depends what your next call is. For example, if I know I'm going to go work on another 454 system, which is the refrigerant I have in here now, I'm just going to leave that pressure on there, go to the next call, hook right up, and not even waste any. If I'm not sure what I'm going to be working on next, if it's going to be a 410 system or something else, I will release the pressures off of this. Or if I'm done for the day, it's hot out and I don't want any pressures on my gauges, in a hot truck, I'll let the pressures off there as well. But I'm done for today. That's it.